And it's time to do business this evening with me, Beverly Broohm. Now, some savings and loans companies in the country have been hit by pandemic withdrawals. According to the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, the situation is due to uncertainty surrounding government's proposed debt exchange program. Junibu Akodia is the executive secretary and has been speaking on PM Express Business Edition.
What is very worrying now is that we have not gotten to any imaginative point where financial institutions like banking institutions are saying that they have this kind of challenge. However, depositors are rushing to taking their fixed deposits.
Is that the situation? And sorry to cut you in. Is that the situation now?
Yes, those who don't understand what's happening.
There's a rush or a run to liquidate their fixed deposits.
They are rushing. Yes, they are rushing to take their deposits. And unfortunately, those who are also owing the banking institutions are defaulting on their loans. And so we think that we have not gotten to the point where we should be experiencing this, and therefore we all need to support the system. And as I said from the beginning, doing nothing is not an alternative. We all need to take pragmatic steps to protecting the financial sector. And I always say, if your banking sector or your financial sector is weak, then your whole economy will crash. And therefore, we all need to take steps that will protect the sanctity of the financial sector.
Away from that, government has kick-started the Economic Enclave project for food production, which aims at growing staple food for domestic consumption and export. The program, which is supported by the Ministry of Finance and the 48th Engineer Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces, seeks to reduce Ghana's overdependence on imported food and helping strengthen the local currency. Speaking at a short briefing before the launching of the Enclave, Chief of Staff Akosua Pare assures of support from the presidency to make the program a success.
The Economic Enclave project is part of the Ghana Cares of Atampa program aimed at reducing the country's food import bill. The site, located in the Shai Osudoku district of Kasunya, is expected to cultivate about 10,000 hectares of rice, maize, and other staples. Chief of Staff Frema Akosua Pare pledged President Akufo-Addo's full support to the initiative.
In order to transform our economy, the President tasked all ministers to leverage on the opportunity provided by the pandemic and build a wealthy, inclusive, sustainable, empowered, and resilient Ghana, what we term a wiser Ghana. The current challenges and devastating impact on the economy and households actually affirm the need to build on even more wiser Ghana, be reducing imports and producing locally. In fact, it will be unwise to keep supporting employment elsewhere by importing more when our youth continue to actively look for jobs here.
Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta applauded the farmers working on the project and expressed confidence that the initiative will enhance the country's food security as well as exporting into the continental free trade area.
To reduce the $1 billion we spent between 2017 and 2021 on rice, while we expanded to rice sufficiency and move the ratio from the 43% that we produce to more than 100%. And also for the national demand of some 400,000 metric tons of poultry, reverse that trend so that we'll be chicken sufficient and be exporting. And to reduce the 90% of our tomato needs from our neighboring countries and onions, which is estimated to have reached some $400 million a year.
The Millennium Development Corporation and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture are part of the partners for this project.
Now, the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association are unhappy about persistent delays and non-payment of contractors. According to the president of the association, Magnus Leslie Kwashi, this is affecting activities of engineers across the country. Speaking to Joy Business at the 2022 Urban Environmental Sustainability Conference, he called for more engagement from government.
The Sustainability Conference was to have members exchange opinions under a common agenda that focuses on the issues and challenges of the association. Speaking to Joy Business, President for the association Magnus Kwashi said the association will engage local construction firms in order to build capacity towards sustainable businesses, thus building a stronger sector towards the future.
I mean, talking about sustainability, some of the challenges we have has to do, for example, with payments to contractors, with payments to generally industry players. And if we're going to talk about sustainability, I think that it's important that we help to address the issues of governance. Okay, government is the main employer, and many construction firms, many industries are old, and so on and so forth. So with this trend, it is very difficult to develop what we call sustainable enterprises. And as a country, if we will develop, we need to be very, very decisive and intentional at developing our local industries. If you go to places in the Middle East, or even in Far East, what the Chinese did, what the Japanese did, what the Koreans did, was their governments intentionally deciding that they will help to transform their private sector. And so they put in place frameworks and policies that helped to speed up growth of the private sector.
The GCEA has been well represented at the international conferences of FIDIC and FIDIC Africa, which has contributed to raise the image of the association. This year's conference was under the theme Sustainability, Promoting Circular Economy and Governance.
Now, some Chinese nationals working at a quarry site in Kaswa in the central region on Thursday, December 8, 2022, released dogs on officials of the Tax Enforcement Unit of the Ghana Revenue Authority. The GRA officials were on an assignment to enforce tax compliance as part of measures to improve revenue collection in the country. Speaking to journalists, the head of enforcement at the GRA in charge of Accra Central, Joseph Anand, said the Chinese nationals released the dogs immediately they saw them on the site. James Ashen has more.
The incident happened at the Executive Quarry, located within the Kaswa to Porton stretch on the Cape Coast Road. The Tax Enforcement Unit, a special group trained to handle hostile situations, hence the team was able to calm the dogs. Head of Enforcement at the GRA, in charge of Accra Central, Joseph Anand, said the case will be handed over to the Attorney General's department.
So, like we always do, we have arrested some staff of these places we have been to. The CID will take over. The assessments their statements will be taken at the office, and then they will be billed by some senior member of those quarries. And then we will also go ahead and then assess them preemptively, and then we will refer the matter for future comprehensive audit. The case will be investigated, and then the dockets will be completed and handed over to our legal unit for possible prosecution. We experienced a nasty encounter today where dogs were released on us, but thanks to our security officers in the name of the preventive staff that we have with us, who are part of us, GRE, we were able to quell the situation, and we were able to go in and do our job. But this very company, that is the quarry, will be dealt with for trying to push it back by releasing dogs on us.
The quarry company Visited by the team are Executive Corey, Pilot Stone Corey, Tonisco Corey, and Hao Shin Corey. This, according to Mr. Annan, are all Chinese companies operating in Ghana without paying VAT. James Eshen's report for Joy Business.
Away from that, advertisers have been urged not to lose focus, but rather remain relevant in these austere times by using technology to stay competitive. Speaking at the Advertising Association of Ghana's annual general meeting, President of the Institute of Public Relations Ghana, Mauko Afejinu, called on the various advertising agencies not to be deterred by the current economic conditions, but rather remain resilient by revamping their brands now and in the future. There's more in the following report.
Speaking at the 31st Annual General Meeting of the Advertising Association of Ghana, President of the Institute of Public Relations, Mauko Afejinu, said it is incumbent on advertising agencies to identify the needs of their clients in a more innovative way to satisfy their growing demands. He also added that it is imperative to leverage on data to expand and grow their businesses.
For you to be able to succeed and perform very well in turbulence and very challenging circumstances, you must not only be agile, you must always be ahead of the curve. And, I mentioned the fact that understanding must be predicated on data. So data gives you a sense of insight and it allows you to see beyond the ordinary. I mean, in a way, what data does and what the proper interpretation of information and data does is to give you the wings to soar above the ordinary. You see things that are not immediately obvious to most people. You are able to provide, because you have a view longer than the eyesight of most mortals, you are able to provide that right kind of direction to your partners, to business, to society.
The AGM, which brought together various advertising agencies, saw the election of new executives to steer the affairs of the association for a 2-year term. Andrew Aka was elected as the 31st president of the association. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the AGM, Andrew Aka said his main objective will ensure the smooth passage of the advertising bill before Parliament.
The first is the fact that we have an advertising bill that has been hanging in and out of Parliament for the past decade plus, and we need to make sure that we regulate the industry, meaning we need to let parliamentarians appreciate the urgency of getting a bill in place to regulate the industry. You can see a lot of aspect of what we do that is unregulated, from billboards to television to the type of adverts, you know, and all of that. So we need that to go through. Secondly, we also need to attract. It's seen as it's a beautiful mouthpiece for all of us, but we need to attract younger generation into the fold of Advertising Association.
The AGM saw the induction of 5 new advertising agencies into the association. For Joy Business, Pius Kujubaka.
You're still watching Prime Business here on the Joy News channel with me, Beverly Broohm. Let's take a look at some other stories. Former President John Dramani Mahama has charged the private sector not to relent to the current economic crisis, but rather support government in resuscitating the economy from further collapse. According to him, players in the private sector have a major role to play in reviving the economy, regardless of the challenges they are being confronted with. John Mahama spoke at the 8th edition of the Ghana CEOs Network Business Cocktail in Accra.
Addressing the CEOs at the 8th edition of the Ghana CEO Network Business Cocktail in Accra, former President John Dramani Mahama, who was a special guest of honor, stated that if captains of industries lend their support to government in bringing the economy back on its feet, the envisaged 10 years revival of the economy may come to naught.
Indeed, there's a silver lining in all this. As stakeholders, we must continue to engage and share ideas as we strive to meander through these turbulent waters. Government's assessment suggests that the current economic conditions will be resolved in about 10 years, that is by 2028. I believe that if we all put our shoulders to the wheel, with you, the private sector, leading, with prudent economic management and good governance, we would be able to turn this economic crisis around much earlier than government has projected. Working together, we can build the Ghana we want.
Director of ISEP, Professor Peter Kwate, who was the guest speaker for the event, urged the business leaders to contribute their respective quota in ensuring inflation is reduced to a sustainable level while reducing the cost of living.
Cost of living, of course, is gone very high compared to previous periods. It's higher in Ghana than you find in other countries. But I think if we all do the right things as businessmen, we'll be able to come out of the woods. Hopefully, with the headmaster in the block, with IMF support, we'll be able to more disciplined, and our economy will be a bit stable and businesses can flourish within the current dispensation.
Founder and CEO of the CEO Network and Ghana CEO Summit, Ernest de Graft Ejiri, who was the main organizer of the event, touched on the theme for the program.
The theme for this year's CEO Network Business Cocktail was cost of living crisis and how inflation is affecting Ghanaian businesses. So we needed the academic angle and then the political and the policy angle. So tonight, yes, we network among ourselves to build familiarity, to build trust, to build our businesses. We've had a great time learning from these resource persons that we invited.
The Ghana CEO Network Business Cocktail is a yearly event which brings together CEOs of business groups to network and share new business ideas.
Now, telecoms giant MTN is confident that the encryption service offered on its messaging app Ayoba is a major growth pole. Group Chief Executive of the Ayoba app has been engaging journalists in Accra. Here's more.
In an era of sudden pickup in hacking of conversations on some telecom platforms, MTN believes that having a messaging app with an end-to-end encryption to safeguard data of users is very important. MTN is optimistic it can also use it to help bridge the digital divide in the country going forward. Here is the Chief Executive of Ayoba, Burak Akinsi.
As digital is increasing, the usage increasing, it is difficult to keep that safe. And Ayoba has this end-to-end encryption on the messaging side, which is important, and also it is encrypted in the server side. And we are trying to also educate our users about the problems and the risks in the digital world. Education is a very important aspect of our content strategy, and you can find any kind of educational content in the channels and also on the micro apps to be safe in digital world.
Manager of digital platforms at MTN Ghana, Winnie Jidonu, added that Ayoba plans to support existing startups through its Users' Choice Awards, where the winner will be awarded 20,000 Ghana cedis.
What we're doing is we've started an accelerator for our different startups in the industry. So we've worked with the different hubs across Ghana. We had a whole roadshow. We went to Kumasi, Takrade, Tamale, and Accra, and we met with the digital hubs that are supporting startups. So the competition is actually providing two benefits. One, they're going to be trained and introduced to the key people that they need to work with Ayoba as a platform. And secondly, there will be cash rewards. So we will have a reward, which is an expert's choice, that the winning team will win 20,000 CDs. We'll have a User's Choice Award, which that winner would also be winning 20,000 CDs. We have a Ayoba Influencer Award. So let's say your micro app didn't make it, but you were really good at marketing, supporting, driving traffic to your product on Ayoba. There's also a reward for you.
The Ayoba app was developed to harness growth in the African economy by breaking barriers to the internet and digital services. Ayoba delivers free music, games, news, entertainment, voice and video calling, and other content to users. Ayoba, since its launch, has reached millions of users in Africa and has 2 million users in Ghana.
Now, the University of Ghana Business School is projecting a $250 million budget to execute its 3-year strategic plan. According to the Dean of the Business School, Professor Justice Bawale, this will aid in rethinking business and help re-envisage the future of the school. He spoke to Joy Business at the launch of the strategic plan.
The strategic plan has specific action needed to achieve the various objectives and the corresponding output over the planning horizon. According to Professor Bawale, the current medium-term strategic plan is accompanied by implementation and monitoring arrangements.
So the strategic plan is costed to be about $250 million. If we have to execute the element within the 4-year span of the budget, this was estimated at $250 million. Today, as we speak now, things have changed, and so we're going to be updating those figures. But I'll give you a few indicators of what it is that we are doing. For example, in our bid to develop world-class infrastructure for education, we're coming up with a brand new lecture theater, what we call the UGBS lecture complex. And that alone is estimated to cost us in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 million US dollars. And then you're talking about the development of a faculty, staff. You're talking about our ability to support research and research development. You're talking about our ability to take our students abroad for them to experience management in other contexts. You're thinking about bringing faculty and bringing more faculty to be able to break our student engagement to smaller groups and stuff like that.
The 8 strategic pillars which drive the plan are excellence in teaching and learning, excellence in research, internationalization and accreditation, marketing, communications and industry engagement, efficient financial management, development of world-class infrastructure, development of human resource competencies, and responsible management education, institutional and community engagement.